Means right now I could have a full-on barbecue on top of that turbo. I guess the first question that you guys must be asking is, 1 year later, am I still happy with the Abarth 595 Competizione?
This 250 BHP car. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video it's quite a special one for me because I have now owned this car for 1 year. So I've owned the Abarth 595 Com for a year, so I thought it'd be a good opportunity to give you guys a bit of a summary as to how it's been over the last year, what things I've learned about the car, have I had any issues with it. But in order to start the video properly, I need to show you some shots of the car in a nice location. So that's where we're heading now. We're heading to find a nice little location, take some nice shots of the car and start the video. I think this is a pretty nice area to create this video. So I'm here at Windsor Great Park right now with the car parked there, completely sunk in the grass. Extra lows from parking in grass. But no, so the reason I wanted to make this video is because today is 1 year's worth of ownership for me and that car. I guess the first question that you guys must be asking is, 1 year later, am I still happy with the Abarth 595 Competizione? Well, in short, the simple answer is absolutely. I mean, I've been very fortunate in the sense that I've effectively gone through 3 stages of power in that car. When I bought the car stock, it was 160 horsepower, which really and truly is quick enough for something that small. Then I started to modify the car, intakes, intercoolers, and then finally putting the big turbo on the car. As all of you guys will know, if you've watched my previous videos, is the turbo that I decided to put on that car is a PA250 Garrett turbo, which is done and supplied by proalfa. And one of the things that really worried me with that turbo was that it had never been tested here in the UK, and I was the first car in the UK with that turbo on there. The car made 250 horsepower by 288 foot-pounds of torque. However, it did have its ups and downs because I ended up having to change the clutch on the car and down tuning it to 225 because the clutch on the car simply wouldn't take that kind of power. Now the car's running a CG Motorsport half paddle, half organic clutch, and it is an absolute dream to drive. Initially it was quite challenging, but now the clutch has bedded itself in and I am enjoying it 100%, as I'm sure you guys agree if you've seen the videos before. And if you haven't, hit the subscribe button, go and check out some of my other ones, particularly the ones of the first drive of that 250 horsepower 225 turbo builds, because I'm really cracking videos in there. So am I happy with my 250 BHP Abarth 595 1 year later on? Yes, the short answer, absolutely, of course I am. I absolutely love the car, I still do. Are there things that I would do differently with this build? Potentially. Over the year that I've had it, I've learned a few things around what works best for the car, what doesn't. So I'm going to share with you guys a couple of things that potentially I might have done differently when upgrading that car. Some of it might be a bit controversial, some of you may agree, some may disagree, but it's my own personal opinion and these are the things that I think. First and foremost, initially, before I put coilovers on the car, I had the Koni FSDs, which come standard on the 595 Com, and I put Novatec springs on that car. Now, Novatec springs are great when it comes to making the car look lower, the car look fantastic. However, Novatec springs and Koni FSDs are a marriage made in hell. They hate each other. Reason being, the Novatecs with the Koni FSDs, you put them together, there literally is no travel at all between the spring and the bump stop, which means that if you hit a pothole, lo and behold, you could potentially blow a shock. And guess who did that?
That's right, me. So I blew a shock in that car, which was the main reason that I decided to go for coilovers. Coilovers that I decided to go for in that car were VMAX coilovers. Now, VMAX, again, renowned for really good lows, but in my opinion, arguably, build quality-wise, probably not the best kind of coilover for that car. I think if I could have done something differently, I potentially would have gone for Bilstein coilovers on this car rather than the VMAX. I know there are a couple of options which some of the guys already on Modified Abarth have done, and that's to replace the rear dampers that come on the VMAX with the Bilstein B14 setup, and it helps the back end massively. I haven't done that yet, I probably should do, but I'm still contemplating of whether to change the whole setup and go for a Bilstein setup, so we will see. Let's talk spacers. Have I learned anything about spacers? Well, I've gone through a couple of setups of spacers on this car, and one of the things that I've realized is that the spacers obviously make the car look amazing. What I'm running here at the moment is 20mm rear setup with 16mm on the front and 2.5 degree of negative camber on the front and back. But how much camber is too much on our cars? I've got 2.5 negative degree camber all round, but ideally I would probably say that 1.5 is probably your peak point. You don't really want to go too much more than that. I've had to go more because I've got 16mm front spacers, 20mm rear, and the car is so low because of the VMAX coilovers that if I don't run that setup, I'm going to be rubbing. Now, has that made an impact on the way I drive this car? At 160 horsepower, probably not. In fact, no, hardly anything. But now at 250 horsepower, the car ideally needs to have as much traction on the road as it can to lay the power down. Now, if you've watched some of my previous videos where I've literally ripped this car, you would know that it starts to break traction really high up the rev range. Some of you have said, oh no, you're hitting the limit already, but I'm generally not intending to do that. It just breaks traction that high up the rev range that it then just bounces off the limiter. So for me personally, right now, the current setup that I have, whilst it was great at 160, at 250, it probably isn't ideal. So my top tips for any of you guys with an Abarth or thinking of buying an Abarth and you're thinking of modifying it, in terms of camber and spaces, I think personally the best setup you could go for on this car in terms of handling, looks and all sorts is to go 12mm front spacers, 16mm rears, and leave it at that. Now let's talk turbos. So I've obviously had the IHI turbo on this before. I'm now running the Garrett PA250, as everyone on the channel is aware because you've seen all the videos. But I don't know if you saw that. Yellow Ferrari. Back to the video. So yeah, I'm running the PA250 turbo on this car. There are a number of options available for those of you who are thinking of upgrading their cars if you have the IHI turbo. Now, I've been in a couple of cars. I've been in JJ's car, I've been in a few other Abarths which are running different turbo setups. This particular turbo, the PA250 turbo, in terms of power delivery, it's quite similar to the TD04, which means that pickup on this car takes a bit longer, but when it does, it's so aggressive that it just pulls all the way up the rev range. Now, I've also been in Adam's car. Granted, I went in Adam's car when it was about 237 horsepower when I was getting my brakes done, but he's got the hybrid GT1446, and JJ's also got a 230 BHP 1446 tuned. Now, I still think, based on all the cars I've been in, and I love mine to pieces, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love this. I love being different. I love doing something that's not been done before, but in terms of overall tunability, practicality, and all the other good stuff that comes with it, I think the 1446, for me, in my opinion, is still the best turbo. And the reason I think that is because you've pretty much got all the stock parts that come on that car. Now, if you notice closely on mine, I've got no heat shield, which means right now I could have a full-on barbecue on top of that turbo, which isn't ideal when it comes to lifting up the bonnet in the first place because you burn your hands. But secondly, the amount of hot air around this area isn't ideal. But also, because I haven't got a heat shield, I can't just whack on a heat shield, because in order to get this turbo to fit, we've had to bend that plate there, which is effectively what you would put the heat shield on, which is a pain in the backside. It's literally been bent all the way back in order to let it fit. You wouldn't have this problem with the 1446 because you can just get the 1446 heat shield, etc. If you see what Adam's done with his, he ceramic coated it, he ceramic coated the turbo, but it allows you to keep all of that heat within the area. So in summary, my opinion, best turbo on these cars is the 1446 tuned up to around about the 230 horsepower mark. Again, people may shoot me down, but that's just my personal opinion. So have I had any issues with this car since owning it? Other than the issues that I had with the brakes where it was chucking out brake fluid and it was making that horrible ticking noise, the car has pretty much been fault-free. And I'm having to think about it now because a year is a long time, but yeah, the car's pretty much been fault-free, which is probably the kiss of death. I'm going to drive it out here and lo and behold, I'm probably going to end up having an issue. Fingers crossed I do not. But in the 1 year of owning this car, it generally has been a pleasure to drive. This car has had its critics, but it's also had its fans. And the most important thing is that it still makes me smile and it makes me happy. And I'm sure all of you guys who own Abarth 595s or Abarth 500s will agree that these little things are such great fun. But yeah, so I think that's about it, guys. Completely unplanned video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, like, share and subscribe, and of course I will see you all on the next one. Thank you. Bye bye.